Good evening, and welcome to the program Talk with Tashi, a program dedicated to young people, adolescents, and adults, discussing your issues and solutions with Tashi. And now, here is your host, Tashi.
Welcome back to another Talk with Tashi. And last week was part 1, the link in description. And this week, we wrap up the conversation on conflict. Look here, grab a pen and notebook because there will be some things you might want to make note of. Thank you so much. Do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe to this channel if you are not already subscribed, and help the message get out. Remember, we are all about issues and solutions here on Talk with Tashi. So we want to make Jamaica a better place. We want to reach our young people and parents and so on. So play your part by allowing this episode to reach far and wide. God bless you. Stay tuned.
I applaud our government who would have then tried to then prioritize early childhood education. But again, even in that space, I believe that we as a people, as education ministers, would have then dropped the ball right there because we forget that education really begin at home and not at an early childhood institution. So what exactly is there for the parents to then get to learn how to then bring up their children? You had mentioned 2 articles at the start of the program, and one of the things that I always remember is the incident in St. Thomas, right here in the parish I'm at, where a parent a few years ago was caught on video using a machete to hit her daughter. Now, the thing is, in seeing that video, I gave the lady props. I gave the lady props because she would have delivered several blows with the child moving and the machete never cut the child. That told me that was not, it wasn't the first. That is what she normally does. Okay. Now, when 1 and 2 politicians came out and said, oh, she should be imprisoned, I'm like, but why? The thing is, she grew up knowing that that's what she is supposed to do for discipline her child. Okay. At what point did anybody go and say, no, mommy, let us not do it that way. Here's how we should do it. And one of the things that I heard her saying while she was delivering the blows is that she tired. She tired her. She talked for how much time. So the thing is not, she was not getting upon us and beat the child. She would have tried to talk to the child on several occasions, and it is that the talking just didn't work. Was there anything in place to assist that mother to then get through to that child? So we dropped the ball like across the society.
Yeah, the ball has totally rolled off the court and gone somewhere else, ready to be thrown in again. And you mentioned also that whole matter of emotional maturity, that doesn't happen until 28, between 28 and 32. But even in that, I think that there should be a proper foundation for that kind of emotional maturity, because we have grown men who are pulling guns on women and whoever else, because we've seen that on videos also,
Definitely.
And so it appears that our society has gone mad.
Well, mad, you see, mad could be one way to then put it, but when we then tear it apart, it is the love, it's the tolerance, it's the patience, it's just that genuine care for the fellow man. I believe that somewhere along the line, we lost that care for our brothers and our sisters. And when that basic of all things was the love and the genuine care for each of us within thrive. When that is lost or is missing, it then takes away from us as it tears apart a part of our humanity.
It does.
I don't know how it is that we go. Well, for the persons who have lost it, I don't know how they would then get it back. But at some point, we know say it is that for those children that we are bringing into the world, we as parents, we as adults need to then find a way to ensure say it is that we pass on that love, the care, the tolerance, the patience, the empathy. When I pulled in since evening, there was a short video on Instagram I saw where this man, US, Caucasian, was teaching his child, and the title was that how a father teaches his daughter love. And he had a plate and he put salt and pepper on it and he shook it up and said, "Can you separate the pepper, black pepper, from the salt?" And she said, "No, she can't." And him said, "Well, quite frankly, this is how you must say the word. Not because it is that we might have a different color, different race. The thing is, we are all on the planet together. And because we are together, there's no way we can separate it. So we really have to then just live together as one. We are really one. So we just need to understand, so it doesn't matter if that person is in your family or from a different community, or if it is a different gang. Because in the 90s, we had crews. So we had rival crews, but of course, we had dance and compete with each other. Yes, we want to then compete, both girl, but who is artist, but we did not need to fight it out. So you can be in a crew without having to draw a knife and then harm the fellow man. That is unnecessary. Unnecessary.
I think the issues are complex because as you spoke about that empathy and love for the fellow human being and all of that, I'm thinking to myself, there was a time when there was the concept of the village, but we have for quite some time grown into an individualized society, every man for themselves kind of thing. And I can't help but wonder what the influence is. Could it be with globalization, the social media thing, that cultures from abroad and all of those kind of ideologies have kind of come in? So parents are not intentional or have not been intentional to pass on what they need to pass on to the children, but the children are absorbing several things from the videos they're watching and everything else that they are doing while parents are busy working and trying to make ends meet. So there is all of that. But where do we begin in, how can we make better, even if in a small way, this whole matter of how do we, teach our children to handle conflict? We know that it begins in the home. So maybe we need to be doing something with the parents, the adults, and so on. And then there's the whole matter of being in school. And what are we teaching them? What systems are in place within the schools itself to handle these conflicts? Like, how do we teach our children to handle conflicts in a healthy way? Where do we begin and what can we do, practically speaking?
Well, when you mention about the parents intentionally getting some things across, it has to start in the home. And of course, so parents need to be intentional in the values that they are choosing to pass on to their children. I know that there should be 1 or 2 programs that parents can enroll in to then learn a few things. I know that I don't know them. I know that there should be, and it would be good if it is that these programs get some fuel. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, man. So it would be good if it is that these programs get some fuel. So it is that the parents can then, I suppose, grasp or learn how to then pass on the values that need to be passed on. So those programs need to then be on board and in the communities. In the schools, I know that there are several behavior modification programs that several schools or the ministry would have then begun in schools. I know one
How
of them
are
is
those? How are those going? Is there anyone who is keeping a record of success stories, statistics? Or is it working? Is it being reviewed? I mean, I know that there are those programs, and
I would want to believe. I would want to believe because as a dean of discipline in the school, we had embraced the students school-wide behavior modification. But I know school-wide behavior.
something.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I do believe that it is some schools would have then completely embraced it and would have then started it, and the students had bought it. Teachers had bought in and they were working on it. We know again that everybody has a difference in opinion. So not all schools embrace it completely. There is a safety and security unit in the Ministry of Education. There's a guidance counseling unit. Between those two units, I believe that there'd be some records that they have there. I would want to believe that.
Before you go on, right? Because, and I mean, this is probably another conversation, but it has always been a concern of mine with the guidance counselors. I really do believe that we have some very dedicated guidance counselors, in our school system they continue to be, a kind of a rock, safe place for our children and so on. But one of the things that I can't help but notice, depending on the nature of the case, the guidance counselors would have to refer them to maybe child guidance clinic or something like that. And I am fully aware that once it goes there, you have a 6 to 8 month wait period just to get an appointment.
Well, I am not certain about the wait period. I know that there are several programs that guidance counselors and deans of disciplines can refer students to. While I was at JC as dean of discipline, I had utilized the I can't remember the name now. They were on South Camp Road, and I believe they are closer by the ministry. I can't remember the name now, but when we suspend some students, they would have then gone there for anywhere between 3 days to 5 days. And during that time, if they recognize that the students had not absorbed or did not display certain objectives that were set out in the beginning, then a request is made for them to then continue for a longer period. There are times where the students may be asked to then report after school. So it is that they are still enrolled in a program. I can't remember the name now. Apart from there, I'd also made use of the family life counseling that is on that same road that
Cecilia Road.
St. Andrews. Yeah, man.
Cecilia Road.
Yup, that's it, Cecilia Road. So Mark, I've left the dean post a while, so but
that counseling costs. It's not free.
So that counseling costs, but with the other one for the that we'd have sent them to, that would have been cheaper, where the parents would have been asked to make just a contribution.
Right.
I know that for the family life, there are times where the JC would have assisted in paying for the sessions with the students. Sometimes, not all the time.
Right.
But
that has always been a concern, though, in terms of there are many other families that really need the help are not able to afford to pay for it. So
again, with one of the spaces where the government has dropped the ball, given with the level of violence that we experience in our society, I believe that it should have been a priority where the schools not only have guidance counselors, but every school needs to have at least one social worker. The social workers go a little bit further than the guidance counselors. So we need quite a few more
resource people.
Resource people with social workers, we need quite a few more out in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
That is needed.
All right. So it doesn't seem that we're going to get those social workers anytime soon, because that's kind of above what our pay grade. But with the existing resources and people that we have, what are some of the things that you think we can do to, teach, get our children primary school level? We already established that it begins in the home. So it means that even the older children in their home, if the parents are listening, we're saying, parents, you need to check yourself, consider how you handle conflict when there's a disagreement between mommy and daddy, or disagreement between mommy and daughter and son, and whoever is in the home. When there's a disagreement, do you shout, draw off a knife, and carry on, whatever the case might be? So we know that it begins in the home. But what are some of the healthy ways in which we can resolve conflict? How should we really approach? And is it practical to remain calm even when you're being provoked? And does it help if that's
All right. So it is extremely difficult to remain calm when one is upset. However, I like the idea of, before things happen, think about it. Sometimes if you then pause and think about stuff. So before we get to the conflict, you supposed to work out how you want to then get things done as a parent. So you would then purpose within yourself that it is in your best interest and the child's best interest and your partner's best interest to not get to the point where we are shouting. When we're shouting, we tend to then stop listening to one person. And mark you, when we shout and we are upset and we are in that space of anger, it is the possibility of saying something that is going to be harmful or hurting the person that we're speaking to significantly increases. Some things that we say, we can't take it back. And when that person hears it, hours later, days later, weeks later, months later, years later, it's playing on the mind. So you as an individual, you know that if you hear some things, it's going to affect you certain ways. Because you recognize that and you don't want to then cause that type of trauma onto another person, you tend to then say, all right, let me be cautious and careful in what I then am going to express. So it is best to stay calm. When you stay calm, you can think better on what it is that you're going to say before you say it.
Right.
You're able to then think before you act. So it is in the best interest of all persons. Remain calm. Of course, as you said, be intentional in what it is that you are going to do. Now, how you resolve conflicts between you and your partner, the child is seeing it. So the child is going to reciprocate whatever he is in his environment. So it is that if you're shouting at your partner, son or son, say he's going to do that. But if you find a way to resolve an issue with your partner, the child sees it and the child will then absorb that. As we go into the schools, many times, again, observation, not blankly accusing any teacher of not addressing or then contributing to then this harmony, disrupting the child's growth. But many times we find that when a child is young and is at a primary school, basic school, teachers sometimes do not prioritize the conflict that these the children have. And it is allowed to fester to a point where it is that it then gets out of hand. Sometimes you have to then kind of pause, stop and listen sometimes.
Yes.
Because a part of us teaching, we are teaching the children how to then be adults. So if you sometimes pause the lesson and you want to then journey with the child as to why is it that you and your classmate is not seeing eye to eye, why are you upset with them, why did you hit? So you have to then take them through that questioning, because that child needs to then process his or her thought, his or her emotions. We need to do that. And I find that what leads to that violent conflict is that we don't take the time to process what we are feeling. Oftentimes, it's not about the person, It's really about an issue that needs to be resolved. But instead of attacking the issue, we attack the person. So teachers just need to then sometimes pause, journey with the children, with your ward, the children, to see what is the issue and see if it is that you can get them to then get to that section where you're resolving. So you just saying behave yourself, stop that. You might have paused something in the moment, but whatever the issue is, it has not been addressed, and at some point they are going to get back to that issue. So get to what the issue is, say if it is that between them they can resolve it. And I suppose that is pretty much it. School, so even in high school is the same. Many times as a dean, instead of the teacher resolving some matter there, go to the dean, go to the VP, go to the principal. So that issue is not resolved. And sometimes when you go to that space, if that space does not take you through whatever would have happened, it is about just, as I suppose, growing up as a teenager, you're being lectured to.
Yes.
But like you never know what the issue is that you just a lecture to me. So like,
yes.
so
Yeah.
the issue has not yet been resolved. We're not touch on the issue yet.
And they don't learn from it. It doesn't become a learning
experience.
lesson, right? A learning experience for them because nobody has walked them through it. I think the main thing here, based on what you said, would have been the whole matter of modeling. I think modeling is the important thing here. How we as adults and those who are in the space of these children who are absorbing and observing everything, that we model how to handle conflicts. Because I realized when I was in the classroom, I think that it wasn't as difficult, but I have had students where when you say to them, let's talk about it, we can talk this out. Sometimes they will say, me not talking, me just want. And, they're quite aggressive and that kind of thing. And I realize that unless they have seen an alternative approach that works, or maybe if for some reason they really like you and they decide that they're going to by faith try what you're telling them to, to consider, then you'll find that no, what works for them is physical altercations and speaking in ways that, I observed a lesson recently with, going on well. Student teachers were in the class. The lesson was going on quite well. And students are paying attention, books open. And then there was just this, they were doing an activity. So the boys were asked to sit on one side and the girls were asked to sit on one side. And so they remained like that for the duration of the lesson. And it was painfully obvious that the boys were behaving better than the girls. There was this big brawl on the side of the girls at a point because of a conflict. One did something, the other one disagreed with it, expressed her disagreement. And the one who was the one who performed the act, she was just having none of it. And if it meant disrupting the class, she didn't care, even though everybody else was saying, settle down, be quiet, you're in a class, they're doing their exam, She was just spitting fire, and she would not stop. And the other girl was not retaliating. But at the end of the day, she was crying. And when you moved close to her, you see that she is a student who cuts herself, self-harm. And she was speaking about, because the other girl has already threatened her to say, wait till I see you outside. So she's stuck in the classroom and she's planning to harm herself again because she just cannot take this stress.
That's her outlet. That's her outlet. Right?
Yeah.
And Mark, it's a vicious cycle. Because what that young lady was displaying is what she would have learned how conflict should be dealt with. Mm-hmm. As much as you mentioned where it is that you will have students who will say, boy, when I talk, it would I'm not talk. Mm-hmm. What you're saying, that my mind went back to my stint as dean of discipline at JC, where as much as they would not want to talk, when you are able to, and that's why you often read they read the room as them call it, but they be observant of the students that you interact with. Know them, you have to then know them. Being able to then call them my name goes a far way. You saying, hey boy, then probably just say, oh, you know, but when you can't call him by name or her by name, they tend to pause more and listen.
Right.
Oftentimes, bringing them aside away from everybody. And if you are able to then just lower your voice and you try to reason with them, you find that they'll open up. I've also found that teenagers appreciate when, as an adult, we can be honest with them and treat them fairly. Many times their cry is that, quite frankly, how something is going to be dealt with. There's either some favoritism, some bias thing that is done, because finger is always being pointed on me as a troublemaker. You're not going to take what me say. You just got to believe the rest of the people. Then. So the thing is, listening to them, respecting them, and as best as possible, you treat all of them fairly. They know when they are being treated fairly.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. So keep the respect level up, even when you're dealing with the teenagers and so on. I think that is a very fitting note on which to end, you know, that respect due every single time. And not only is respect due, but we must also be prepared to model and be intentional in passing on the values and the necessary conflict resolution skills, you know, handling conflict in a healthy way. And it is a vicious cycle, as you said, but it has to begin with somebody. And if adults can really take stock of, you know, how we manage ourselves in our space and what we pay attention to what we are modeling to the children and the teens and so on who are around us, then we can be, you know, that's a start. At least that is a start. Mr. Andrew Pitkin, it was a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on to talk with Tashi about the conflict, the realities, and the possibilities. Until next time, join us next week for another talk with Tashi. God bless you.
Man, thanks much.
Thanks for tuning in. Do join us next week, same time and on this platform, when you can talk with Tashi. Until next time, do have a safe, blessed and productive week.